Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome, everyone. You are now tuned into another amazing edition of Sonya on Air. I'm your host, Sonya Hudson Payne. And how do I start off each and every single show? You guessed it. I have another great show for you and another amazing celebrity guest. Joining us in just a few short moments, I have businessman, entrepreneur, television personality, as seen on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Ralph Pittman Jr. Now, television only gives us a glimpse of what these celebrities do. So this is the purpose of Sonya on Air. I speak with celebrities to unpack their pivotal moments and their milestones. So we're going to find out all about Ralph Pittman Jr., and he'll tell you that he is more than just Drew Sidora's husband. Now, Drew Sidora, she is one of the personalities on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, but he's just not her husband. He has so many amazing things going on, and we're going to discuss it all. But before we get to that conversation, do me a favor. Make sure that you subscribe to Sonya on Air, that is streaming across just about every major platform. YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Alexa, Pandora, you name it, Sonya on Air is there. I need your engagement levels to increase. I need you not to only listen, but I need you to leave a comment. I need you to reshare. I need you to do whatever you do. Take me to dinner too. But seriously, engage with Sonya on Air across all social media platforms. And then also, if you're looking for advertisement space, or if you have an announcement to make, why not do it with a digital billboard? Sonya on Air has access to amazing billboards in 41 cities across the United States of America. Why not see your name in lights? Why not see your brand in lights? Why not make a major announcement in lights? If you're interested, I have very affordable packages. You can contact me at sonya@sonyaonair.net. So I think we discussed all of these housekeeping things. So let's get right into this conversation. I'm excited for every guest that comes on my show, but I just want to let you know that this month, specifically for the month of June, I'm honoring Black men. So you are my very first guest for the month of June. So I applaud you, I honor you, and I send you blessings.
Thank you so much.
It's too much on, and if you don't look for the blessings and every day, life is just going to pass you by.
So true. And you got to take advantage of it. Stop and smell the roses, So I think that's a thing that people don't do. Everything is on auto drive. We live in this microwave society. Everyone expects things to happen instantly, but we don't really truly value and cherish the times, to really spend with one another, to appreciate. And I'm speaking to myself also. I suffer with this. I'm that type A guy. I'm always on the move. I'm always thinking about the next thing I have to do. So I do suffer from that as well. But literally, I have to tell myself, Ralph, let's celebrate here. This is a moment. Let's go and stop and chill out.
Yes, you do. And I'm a type A person also, but what this Pantene, I'm not even Pantene. Let me talk my hair products. What this pandemic has taught me, like I told you, is just to stop and smell the roses. Like when people ask me, what are you doing next week? Can we link up and, maybe grab a cocktail? I'm like, I just want to get through today. And I just want to cherish and honor today. So let's approach next week. Once we get to next week, we're always looking forward to the next best thing without really honoring what we have right in front of us. So
you're so right. I love it.
Yeah. So let's just get started, because people like myself are often glued to the television. Like the television has become my boyfriend, but that's another story.
I get it.
Don't judge. Television only gives you a glimpse into a person's life. And you were introduced to Ralph Pittman Jr. as Drew Sidora's husband on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. But like I said, you are much more than Drew Sidora's husband. What I love is the fact is that you entered into a career where we don't find a lot of Black men. The field of technology, And then, well, IT is the same thing as technology. Talk about that. Why were you interested in entering into the world of technology when we don't see a lot of Black men?
You know, interesting. So I went to Rutgers. I graduated with my degree in business economics. And interesting enough, one of the jobs that I ended up finding was a technology company. The thing is this. When I look around, technology is where people actually make the most amount of money. That's the sector where everything is booming. Think about Silicon Valley, all the money that's there. You know, technology is what moves the world. And that's exactly what I'm a part of today. So when I found that out, that technology is exactly where everyone makes really, truly great money without being a doctor or having some kind of specialty where you got to go to school for years and years, get your PhD. That's the field that I chose to be in. And so I've been extremely blessed and fortunate. Interested enough, I had a Caucasian mentor. I took the Myers-Briggs test one time, and I came out being this extrovert. He was like, Ralph, what are you doing? Not in sales? Like, why aren't you in sales? I'm like, well, you know, I just haven't had the opportunity, you know? He's like, no. You need to be in sales. This is where all the money is being made. Look at my lifestyle. And like literally, once I started to open my eyes, this is where people can make $1 million easy every year, but it's something that people don't think about. And interesting enough, when I walk into a conference room or I walk into a convention, typically I'm probably one of 3 Black people that's in the building. One of 3. So it's something that people just don't know about. And I really do want to bring more awareness because, I mean, you talk about increasing equity or financial equity, that's the area to do it.
Yes. You know, it's all about the exposure and people who are kind of guiding you in the right direction. My niece, she just graduated from high school last week. And I sat her down and I said, okay, thank you. She's going to college. And I asked her, I said, so what's your major? And she said, sociology. Nothing wrong with the social services and the sciences. My degrees are in psychology. But, you know, I had to stop. I said, you know, I want you to take a lot of business classes while you're at college. In the Black community, we are often, you know, encouraged to explore careers of the social sciences, social services, giving back to our community. And when I'm walking around all these affluent neighborhoods, they're not going into education, sociology. They're going into business. They're going into So I wanted to ask you this question because once again, I wanted to remind our communities that, you know, we can enter into these worlds, into these careers where we don't see people like us. So I'm 100%.
Glad. 100%. I love it. And just for the people, IT stands for information technology.
Yes.
And really, that's what's moving them. I mean, you think about blockchain, and of course, everybody's thinking about Bitcoin, but what's the technology that goes behind that? You talk about all these various different new concepts. That's exactly what I study, and I try to make sure I stay on top of cutting edge technology because that's what drives the future. Everyone is trying to do things easier, faster, smarter. How does that happen? It's technology that enables us. So stay where people are going, and that's technology. That's that realm and sector is where people are making money, and it's always going to be there because everyone needs technology to continue to advance society.
So true. You know, I take my daughter, she's 26, and we go to some of the most affluent neighborhoods, not only in New York City, but, you know, across the world. And we just walk up to people and we ask them, what's your career? Because I want her to, I want her to see, you know, the of affluence and let her know that you can be here too. But once again, it's also about the exposure. So let's just get into unpacking your upbringing. So like I said, this is in honor of fathers. Did you grow up in a 2-parent household or a single parent household?
Interesting enough. I grew up in a single parent household. So just like a lot of, you know, African-American families, you know, I wasn't fortunate enough to have my father in the household. So I was raised just by my mother. So it was my mother and my brother that was in the household.
So as a young boy growing up without a father in the household, how did that impact you as a Black man?
That's a great question. I like to joke around and I'd say that I grew up in a school of hard knocks, meaning that I had to learn on my own. You know, of course, my mom is a woman. She doesn't know what it is to be a man, the things and the challenges that we go through. It's completely different. bullying in a school, trying to fit in, completely a different experience. And so growing up as just a one-parent household with just my mother was extremely challenging because I had to try to learn from my friends. So the streets raised me, you know, my friends raised me. I learned things from watching my friends and what they did. Like, oh, you're supposed to do it like this. Okay. You know, this is how you go about protecting yourself. This is what it means to be a man. And I'm going to tell you, I am saved by the grace of God. I grew up the way that I did because literally I could have been in the street. I was actually a part of a gang when I was young. You know, we had our little street team and we would be running around and doing all kind of different things. And a lot of those individuals, man, they're in different places, but it's only by the grace of God that people have said, hey, Ralph, I don't see drugs in your future. You need to go and focus on school. Leave this drug stuff alone. Leave this street life alone. Don't worry about that. Don't, you know, and that right there is kind of what helped me to actually raise. And so I actually got to a place where I was like, all right, you know, if I'm gonna go to school, what is school all about? And really after learning and figuring out how to be successful, and I played football in school as well. So sports actually also saved me. And that was like my outlet, you know, and my release, getting on the field and, you know, tackling people and everything else. And so I ended up going to Rutgers and playing football at Rutgers University. Once again, graduated my degree in economics.
That's dope. You know, I love to hear about people's early and humble beginnings. So now that, you know, you're a man, a grown Black man, and you are a father yourself, right? You have 3 children, 3 small children?
Yes. 3. Yep. 3.
All under the age of 10, correct?
Yeah. So Josiah, he's 10. So 2 boys, Josiah and Makai. So Josiah's 10. Makai is 5 going on 6 at the end of this month. And then I have Anaya. She runs the house. She's 3.
the girls always run the household. Just get used to it.
Serious.
Ralph, okay?
My little angel. Serious.
So 2 boys and 1 girl. So I know that the oldest boy, that is the son of Drew Sidora. So you are a Black man fathering someone else's son. Is that accurate?
100% accurate.
Talk about those dynamics, because we live in a day and age where we often see men raising someone else's son. Talk about the moment that you met Drew and you realized that she had a son and that you would ultimately be his father in raising him. Talk about that.
That's a great question. So one of the things, I guess, I'm first and foremost, I'm huge on manifestation. So you got to sometimes watch what you ask God for, because he'll give it to you, right? And so I told myself, I was like, listen, I didn't have any kids. I'm like, all right, you know, if I am fortunate enough to have a child or date a woman with a child, I want them to have a boy, 1, and the child has to be 3. Beyond the terrible 2s into their 3s, so that I can be around early enough to start to mold and groom them and they can become accustomed to me. That was kind of my logic. Literally, truth be told, who did I end up with? Meeting Drew Sidora, and then all of a sudden she has a 3-year-old son. So it was like I got exactly what I asked for. And so it was initially Jojo is an introvert, and so he's a great kid. I mean, very, very smart, loves playing sports. And so growing up, one thing that's interesting when you date somebody with a kid, typically the relationship, you spend most of the time dating that woman. The parents, you know, are the parents and the friends like, oh, girl, go out with him. I'll take your son. Don't worry about it. Because they want to pretty much get you married off. You know, that's the whole goal. So that's what ended up happening. So, you know, and of course I came around. I'm like, JoJo, you know, let's go and have some fun. We can play. But Drew was very, very aware of just making sure that JoJo was never like a burden or anything to me, which is not something that I wanted, because I wanted to really build the bond in a relationship with him, just to make sure, you know, he understands who I am and he likes me and I understand who he is. And I grow towards being able to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to raise you as my own. And so, which is a big dynamic. And so I think there's a lot of things when you start dating. Once you become married, though, everything changes, because, you know, for Drew, she's like, I want you to be, you know, he needs a father figure. And if you don't know, JoJo's biological father, he's in prison at the time. And so Drew was saying, he needs a dad. I taught JoJo how to pee standing up, use the bathroom standing up. So it's like going to those little things. I'm like, no, JoJo, this is not how you do that. This is how you do it, and Drew was very welcoming initially, right? When you get married, sometimes one of the challenges that you kind of run into is when you go from being the boyfriend or the fiance, where you don't really have as much interaction and control with that child because everyone is making sure that you can build the relationship with your wife, or your potential wife, your spouse. And then once you get married, the man says, all right, now it's my time to go and step in and play this role as dad. And you go all in. And sometimes the woman doesn't want you to go all in, And so it was a dynamic where I felt like my wife, she had the single mom syndrome, I call it single mom syndrome, and where she was kind of blocking me from doing certain things. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to teach him from my experience on how to be a man and what it means to be a man. From a woman's perspective, she's very nurturing and very loving. And she's like, no, he should do this. And I want him to be able to do, why can't he? And I'm like, because at the end of the day, he needs to be prepared for this world. As a Black man growing up, first and foremost, a woman doesn't know exactly anything about what the experience of as a Black man growing up in this society, because it's very, very challenging, and it's no difference, no similarities at all. The challenges that we go through, the mental and I would say the trauma that we experience at a young age, things that we have to actually get through, those things are real. And so my wife doesn't know about those things. However, she would try to shelter him and keep him away and treat him the way or raise him the way that she wants to. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. So we would bump heads a lot of the times, just trying to just get on the same page. And so that's one of the things, and so I remember she caught up an epiphany. She's like, Ralph, I just got an aha moment. I realized that I am kind of like stepping in your way and stepping on your toes from you trying to raise my son. And she has to get to this place where it's like, I know you have the best interest for my son, although it doesn't look cute or nice, because being a man is hard. I got to mold you and make sure, because this world isn't soft. I want to make sure that you're ready for it. And I want to make sure that you have the experience, even though we have like a beautiful life. I want to make sure that you understand the other side of it, that everyone doesn't treat you nice, even though that you come from a nice world.
That's so true. As you were speaking, I remember the moment that I was in my doctor's office and the doctor told me that I was pregnant. And wow. I got on the table and I got on the floor and I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I said, God, please don't let me have a boy. And my doctor said, wow. Sonia, what are you talking about? Why don't you want to be pregnant with a boy? And I looked at my white doctor and I said, because I don't know as a Black woman how to raise a Black boy into a Black man. I don't understand that. And honestly, God, I don't think that I would be great at it. That's just not my narrative to unpack or my trauma to understand. So thankfully, God did bless me with a girl. He knew. So I'm definitely glad that you mentioned that. And I'm also glad that Drew was able to stop and, understand that she was kind of hindering, the relationship between you and JoJo. Because oftentimes, as women, we are leaders, as mothers, it's our way or the highway, especially when it comes to our children. Mm-hmm. But when you get married, it becomes a whole different conversation and experience. So 100%. What I also found equally impressive in how you included JoJo is you went to him to ask him for permission to marry his mother.
Oh,
Talk
absolutely.
Talk about that.
Well, I mean, the relationship that, I was getting myself into, I wasn't just marrying Drew, I was marrying Drew's world, which included JoJo, which is a huge part of it. And so I thought it was only right for me to also ask him if I could be his dad, because he was going to be part of our world, And so I think that's a really big deal. It really, truly, just the same way I asked, Drew's dad to marry her daughter, I had to go and make sure that, I did the same thing with JoJo and gave him that right and honor to allow me to be his father.
I love it. Where are you from? The South or something? Because they don't do that.
I'm a Jersey guy. I'm a hard, thoroughbred East Coast guy. So I'm from New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Well, your mother raised you right, because there is a narrative amongst women now is that, men don't want to do the work. They don't want to court women like they did in the past. So when I did my research and I found out, how you courted Drew, how you got her son involved and asked for his permission, I was like, this is what dating and potential marriage is all about. I loved your story. I love the trajectory of it. So it's amazing. But in building a relationship with Drew's son, talk about one of the most difficult experiences you two had to face. You as a man and him as your potential son.
You talking about after I became his dad or before?
Yeah. After you became his dad, because I heard stories where the kids will be like, "You ain't my daddy."
Yeah. Well, so I mean, the thing that is for my relationship with JoJo, I didn't have those challenges. Now, one thing, kids are smart. They know how to pin the parents up against each other, right? And so JoJo would do that a lot of the times also. Like, Mom, Daddy did it, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Who's the parent and an adult here? And this is once again, where it comes down to making sure. So Drew, the thing is that Drew always had the foundation because her mom and dad was a unified front. She had the benefit of growing up in a a 2-parent household. Me, on the other hand, I didn't have that experience. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how it felt, So it's a strategy on how you deal with kids in the household. Number one, you do not ever allow them to separate you. And JoJo was really, truly getting the best of us because he would be able to separate and say something that probably didn't really happen the way that it happened, and say it to Drew. And Drew would come and say, "Ralph, did you da 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 da," right in front of JoJo. And I'm like, I can't believe you would do. First and foremost, that is completely disrespectful, I feel. Never allow your child to ever see any confrontation, and no, because children are smart, they're going to see that they can pin you both against each other and have those conversations behind closed doors. I think that's one of the big instances. Another big conversation that we had was actually after we were married, and it was actually when JoJo's dad wanted to come back into his life, and the conversation we had to have around what that meant to him. And I know that there's only so much that I can give to him. And I can go and beat my chest and say, I can raise this child on my own. I'm a man, I can do it. But the thing is that one thing I have to do is I have to, number one, humble myself, because there's a lot that I cannot teach JoJo. One is his upbringing, where his roots come from, his heritage, why he does certain things, why he smiles the way he does. Who is he fundamentally, biologically? Who is he? I can't teach him that, but who can? His biological father. And so I really wanted to make sure I bridged that gap, which was very hard to do because JoJo is one of those kids. He doesn't care. JoJo cares about food, playing with his iPad. He got a couple of things he cares about. Meeting someone or building a relationship is not in the cards. So that was a hard conversation that we had to have, where I had to say, look, I'm encouraging you to go and do it. I'm gonna stand behind and support, but this is something you're going to do, because I'd never want him to grow up and say, or look at us, his mom and myself, and say, you prevented me from having a relationship with my dad. I cannot do that, nor do I want to have that for Drew.
Kudos to you. And the incident that you're speaking about, I saw a little bit of it on an episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. And it was, you could see that it was very uncomfortable for all of you involved. But I really admired your calmness to strengthen the conversation and strengthen the relationship, as Drew's husband. So that was just commendable. Now, there are people who might not have seen the show. So I just want you to give advice to a man who is dating a woman who has a child, but the man is thinking, should I be in this relationship or not? Because those are not my children. What advice would you give to him?
The advice I would give is, first, it happens more frequently nowadays, where you may find, especially as you get older, you're more than likely going to find someone that already has an established family. I think it comes down to understanding what your role is in the relationship. Some people already have their family structure already figured out. For instance, they co-parent and they co-parent successfully. That's something I would always tell someone to get to as a woman. Get to a place where you actually have a foundation for that child. You know how that you're going to raise them. So there isn't any extra drama going on, and have that hard conversation with the baby's father to make sure that there's an understanding that I will be dating, and set expectations on how that's going to work for both parties. And so from that perspective, then when that man comes in, there is a certain level of respect. I think the woman has to come in and start to really, truly lay the foundation down and say, all right, this is my situation. This is the role that I need you to play. If that parent is, or that father is active or not, this is the role that I need you to play. If the father is active, it may not be as much. You don't have to do these certain things, but this is the area that you can actually help with, and start small, and then it can grow from there. For if the father is absent, then once again, it's a conversation to figure out exactly how that relationship should be structured in a way that's comfortable for everyone, and never going too far. One thing that you can't do, it's hard to go and give somebody a lot of responsibility and then pull it back. It's like getting fired, right? It's like, you know what? You're not qualified to do that. And that's, as a man, that's what we feel. Don't pull back. Start small. We won't be upset about it. Start small, and then allow us to grow into the relationship so that it's natural and no one feels offended, and it's a normal and natural process. Also understand how to co-parent effectively. I think it's wise for somebody to go into parenting classes, or, especially in a blended situation, take some parenting classes to understand how to really effectively work. I figure one thing I know now that we messed up. So Drew and I didn't mess up bad because we didn't read any books on how to really co-parent successfully. But I give you one tip. One thing that you should do when you get into a situation is you have to allow that father, or if that father is going to play that role, to actually build the relationship with that child. How you do that is the mom goes in and yells at the child for something. I can't believe you do this. I'm about to get on you. Da, da, da. And then what the father does is they save the child. No. You're being too hard on them. Come here, let me show him. And now all of a sudden it's an impression. Now that child is looking at it like, wow, that person just saved me. He actually does care about me. And now it gives them an opportunity. It gives that child an opportunity to look at this person that's coming in, not as a stranger that's not supposed to be there, but as somebody that actually may have his best interest at heart. Now you can start to build the relationship and start moving things forward. And so now this is the big thing, ego. If there's a man already in the place, in position, how do you actually go in and walk in with it being something to where it's like a mutual kind of a relationship? Because even for myself, I will feel some type of way if there's a man in my house. I'm like, who is this? And that's what men typically do. We're very territorial. We're very dominant, and we don't want anyone, not necessarily around the woman, but around our kids, because we don't know what your intentions are. We don't know if you're going to mistreat our kids. And so there needs to be some kind of a foundation. I personally would say it's wise to actually have a conversation with the father to say, listen, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm about. And have that father have the opportunity to go and talk, because you're going to be around that man's child, which more than likely is his heart. The thing you don't want to do is do something that's going to jeopardize that relationship, because now you have another problem on your hands. And so I think there's a way that you can come into a situation respectfully and say, hey, this is open. Same thing I did. Hey, I told him, look, you can come in here. This is something that's open. I want you to be able to have a relationship with your son, because that's between you guys. I'll take care of everything. I'm going to make sure he has everything that he needs, and I'm going to take care of him, but have as much involvement as you want with your biological son. And I'll stand out the way, and I'll let, you and Drew figure out what the terms are and things of that nature. But I'm here to make sure that he has that father figure, and I'll make sure I do everything in my power to make sure he's safe, he's never harmed, and he's loved, he's cherished, and also he grows the right way. That's my perspective as a man, what I give back.
Let me tell you why I appreciate that perspective, because you assigned a responsibility and roles to all of the adults in the equation. You just didn't leave it up to one person. And one thing that really resonated with me was how you allowed Drew to kind of give you the structure of what she needed for her child, instead of you just coming in, captain and saving everyone and doing whatever you want to do. I'm glad that, she said, okay, this is what my son needs. And she started small, and then it gradually grew. And like I said, that everyone.
No, that didn't happen initially. This is what I know now. We messed up. We bombed. It was absolutely terrible. It was absolutely terrible how we started off. But now I know, by being a stepfather and going through the process, this is, if I could do it all over again, this is how you structure it the right way. I feel like I need to write a book on just like about being a stepdad, really, because it's not an easy role.
No, it's not. But those are the best moments, when you make the mistakes and you learn from them, and then you can impart some wisdom and teachable moments to someone else. I think it's a failure of a life when you just, make mistake after mistake after mistake. And then you wake up and you're like, well, damn it, I ain't learned nothing. And then you just keep on making mistakes. So you learn from your mistakes. So yeah, you should write a book. So now Ralph Pittman Jr., the husband. The husband. Now, I've spoken to many married people. My parents were married for close to 50 years. And I'm always asking married people the ingredient to a successful marriage is a thing, And they always talk about communication. Communication is key. Communication is essential. Now, on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, we saw you and Drew kind of go through a communication interrupted. There was sort of uncomfortable moment. You decided to leave, and you didn't tell Drew anything. I understood that because I was once in a relationship with someone, and whenever things got rocky or just a little bit unsteady, they would go. They didn't see anything wrong with it. Talk about that. Where was your mind in that moment when you thought it was okay, when you and your wife got into an uncomfortable situation, that you would just leave?
Well, so the backstory behind that is my wife went through a lot of things. First and foremost, she tore Achilles on stage. And so basically I had to become her nurse, literally doing IV changes in the middle of the night at 4 a.m., changing her back. I became her nurse, wearing gloves, the whole thing. And going through the pandemic, everything that happened with George Floyd, the mental toll that it was taking on me as a Black man, seeing what was going on, the discrimination that I was personally feeling, and the trauma that I was experiencing, watching other people go through trauma of their own. And then you put in there homeschooling. So we were in a position where we were trying to get the kids going. And Drew, there was a big decision. I'm very pragmatic, very realistic on what needs to happen. I think different. I'm a business guy. Drew is more creative. And so she thinks of a different side of her brain. We blocked off time for me to take Drew to the doctor. And literally, so I blocked my calendar out and I got finished with my last meeting. I ran upstairs like, okay, Drew, let's get ready to get out of here because I got my day planned and scheduled. Drew's upstairs with the kids, and this is the first day of school, mind you. You know what? I'm frustrated with school. I canceled my doctor's appointment and rescheduled for Friday. And I'm like, wait a minute. You have to go and figure out and see if you have an infection in your bone. You can't cancel this, because if you cancel it, you're going to be back in the hospital again and school is going to be irrelevant. You're not going to be able to do anything with school. So for me, my pragmatic mind went straight there. We got into this huge argument because her focus was on the kids. My focus is on making sure she's healthy. Which one is right? Hey, it depends on who you're talking to, right? So we are going through this whole entire big argument, and I just got to a boiling point where I just realized that if I didn't leave, it just would have been extremely destructive. And I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of people that's in my role that wish they could have left at an appropriate time. I think first and foremost, it's wise and mature to go and stay, but it's also wise and mature to understand if you're at a breaking point, which I was at, to understand that you have to get away so that you can get yourself together. I realized that I'm the only person that can keep myself together. The only person that I can do or change is myself. And I was at a point where I lost it and I had to get away. I did the best thing that I know how to actually do in order to get myself back to a place where I'm balanced, calm, and I can actually have a conversation, opposed to an explosion. We all have a tipping point. you better know yours, or you'll be answering to the authorities or something like that. Like literally, you got to know your boiling point and your breaking point. And I don't think it's less of a man for you to go and step away when you need a break.
No, let me tell you something. Whenever I am dating someone and it becomes serious, like most recently, I had to have a conversation about how I communicate. And if things get a little bit hostile, like I need my space and I will step away. You know, I won't come back, but I need to step away so I can come back and I can regroup and we don't be, you know, fighting and calling the cops. We don't want that, you know.
Right,
so I do, you know, how I communicate to my partner so that he is aware that when I don't answer the phone or when I'm missing in action for 2 or 3 days, he understands, okay, we just had an argument, you know, she needs some time. She's dealing with her thoughts. So I really didn't see anything wrong with it, you know, but America had a big problem with it.
Oh man, America went through the roof and dragged me for that. I'm like, the big thing, I'm like, listen, I left for 3 days and I came back. Some dudes never come back. We know some of them. They don't come back. They're gone.
Right. They've been going to get cigarettes for 25 years.
Exactly. Facts. Like, hey, you know what? I'm out of here.
Right. That's it. So, you know, but I was glad that we saw the challenges in your marriage, because getting married is easy. Staying married is the difficult part. I want to see all the challenges. I want to see all the obstacles, because I've never been married myself. And I look at married couples to see what they're going through and how they got through it, so that I can kind of, you know, learn some teachable moments. But, you know, just also talking about your wife, I saw on the show where her mother is a pastor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How is that? You know, did you come from a religious or spiritual upbringing? Because if not, how do you merge with a woman who comes from a spiritual and religious background? So did you come from a religious background yourself?
Oh, 100%. We went to church all the time. Matter of fact, I'm a musician, so I played at church, and the majority of them, a lot of the churches that my mom actually attended, I was either the organ player, pianist, or the musical director. So, like, literally, yes, I was in church all the time. I started off playing the drums in church as well. So, yeah. And then that was one of the things that where Drew and I connected. Our first date, which lasted 12 hours, right? Kind of crazy. Our first date lasted 12 hours.
Nice.
That was one of the things that we connected on. You know, Drew was like, yeah, I told her, and she was like, yeah, I sing. I was like, you do? I was like, I play the piano. And so we started having these connections based on church, religion, God, what we felt, and faith, because we realized quickly that we were equally yoked. And that's one important thing that you always want to make sure of. You know, there's one thing to be together. It's another thing if you can pray together, if you can uplift and strengthen somebody. And that right there comes through prayer. So that right there is the start of our foundation. Always. Yeah. We always go back like, all right, cool. We need to pray. There's some things going on right now. It's bigger than us. We need to pray.
Yeah. I love that, because I come from a similar background. You know, my parents are deacon and deaconesses. My grandfathers on both sides are pastors. So that's important for me. You know, the man that I will ultimately marry, he also has to have, you know, a background. He has to believe in God. And I remember, you know, getting rid of an individual because, you know, we went on maybe our second date, and I asked, I said, well, you know, do you believe in God? And he said, no. And I said, well, I can't believe in us. And I laughed. Yeah. And that was just it for me. So now it makes sense, because I was like, Drew and her mother are super, super religious. I'm hoping he came from a similar background, because they seem to mesh well. So I'm glad that you did. And speaking of the dating process, that was kind of quick for you and Drew, between dating, proposing, and then getting married. How much time lapsed between the dating, proposal, engagement, and marriage? How much time?
About 5 months.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. Really? 5
months.
Wow, that's unheard of. Because you know, people, they come with their blueprint. of what marriage or what courting should look like. Why did you know, or how did you know in 5 months that, okay, I need to lock it down, I need to put a ring on it?
I feel like as men, we go through a place where we're like in a state of readiness. And that's a real thing. Men get to a place where they're like, hey, I think I've done enough. I'm ready to settle down and I'm ready to move on to the next chapter of my life. For me, it was build legacy, and I had to find the right person to do that with. And so I had a couple of areas that I needed compatibility. And, so spiritual, sexual, fitness wise, education, so, and there's one other one that I'm missing, but it's like those areas were very important to me. And I wanted to make sure I had the majority of them. You're not going to get everything, but you're going to get the majority just to make sure that you have somebody that's on the same page with you that you feel like you can grow with. And when I met Drew, I knew from the first date, I was like, all right, yes, you check off all of these boxes right here. We had a blast together. She was in a great position. She fit what I was looking for. Her life was like crazy enough to fit mine also, because I always knew I couldn't date like a teacher. It was just too relaxed, too mundane. I want something like my life got to be like, because I'm always on the go. That's me. Of course, I'm spontaneous. I may mess around and be like, hey, you know what? I think I'm tired of being here. Let's go out the country tomorrow. That's who I am. So I needed somebody that had that kind of pace with that can actually go, not very predictable, because that's my life. And so that I found that in Drew. And literally, once I realized, I'm like, okay, she had these areas. It was a matter of now finding and making sure that I had the relationship with her son. Once I realized, it's like, okay, check. I like her son. We get along well. I could see myself being in a family with all of us together. And, the next thing was just asking for her hand. But it didn't take that long. Of course, I will say this. It's not for the faint of heart. You're going to go through things because there's growing pains. You don't know, like literally you said communication was the most important. I said a bunch of different things before earlier on in my relationship. You have all these expectations. Oh man, like Drew bamboozled me, I will say. Man, to get that ring, she bamboozled me. Oh, Ralph, let me tell you, when we get married, it's going to be like this and like that. And she giving me all of this. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just like this stupid guy. Like, oh, I can't wait. Look, this is how life is going to look right when we get married. And none of that stuff existed. It's like, it's a fairy tale. And so that was one of the lessons I had to learn, not to create expectations because you're going to be disappointed. And so really, truly growing with somebody and communicating every step of the way and just being open, like, hey, you know what? I know I said I like this at one point. I no longer like it anymore. How are we going to adjust? Right. All right. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't enjoy it. I know I told you I did, but I don't like it anymore. How are we going to adjust and just continue just to grow? That's the evolving. But you can't date somebody and stay in place and stay stagnant. Everything is an ebb and flow. Everything needs to grow just like flowing water. And so that's what we're doing. So initially it was, can we actually live together? Can we be? Now it's, can we build business together? Can we build legacy? Now we got different growing pains, So every step of the way in your process of marriage, it's a different experience. Now next is going to be, hey, we're ready to retire. What does that look like? This is how retirement looks for me. This is how it looks for you. Are we on the same page? How can we make it work?
Got it. I'm loving all of this. So, getting married, I really am. Getting married, within, 5 months, very non-traditional. And like I said, married couples always have these traditions that they think that everyone should abide by. So as a married couple, do you believe that married couples should only be friends with other married couples?
No. I think at the end of the day, I think you can be friends with whoever. I know they got these things like, women can't be friends with men or whatever the case may be because there's some sexual tension or they're just waiting for their next opportunity. I feel like, at the end of the day, don't create expectations, do whatever you want to do whatever benefits you most, and just be aware of what you're looking for, because you're going to find whatever you put out there. So if you want to have a friendship relationship, have that friendship relationship. if things start to evolve into something else, know where your priorities are and break it off. Like, I never wanted to do the girlfriend boyfriend thing because I feel like it creates expectations. I can't talk to you, or I can't do this because I'm in a relationship. But I feel like people should do whatever they want to do, and you don't do certain things because of what you have to jeopardize and lose. And so therefore it takes all of the expectations out of the equation, and now you're just operating on what you feel and what your heart wants to do. And I think that's a great thing and a great position for you to be in.
Got it. So let's just talk a little bit about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, because I didn't know that before the show, just speaking about married couples, being friends with married couples, that you and Drew were friends with Cynthia Bailey and Mike Hill. Was that true?
Yeah. Yes.
Mike
is my guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Really? That's dope. So what I want to know, I always wanted to be a fly on the wall, especially when married men, let's say, are at a restaurant or at a bar, just having, social and casual conversations. When married men are together, what are the top 3 things they talk about?
Sports. Sports. That's all we talk about. Men aren't up in here. Like, we talk about business. So we talk about things on what we can do and where we want to go, how we can broker deals, because that's where it starts. Sports, talk about liquor, whatever your thing is or whatever your passion is. I talk about music a lot also. And then at the end of the day, it should lead to growing. Like, what can we create together? What can we build? How can I help you? That's kind of the things I talk about. It's rare that you have guys talking and venting on relationships too much, unless it's just one of those days. You're like, man. But at the end of the day, those are the things men kind of stay in a place where we talk about things that uplift us and that we like, So that's kind of what we talk about. We try.
So let me ask you. So thinking back to when you were single, when you were around single men, were your conversations the same as a single man as it is as a married man? I'm sure the conversations are different.
Oh, 100% different. Typically, You're talking about who you're dating, what you're trying to do, traveling, the things that you can't do when you're married. I'm like, hey, look, you want to go to Vegas tomorrow? Let's go. Those are things you talk about and you can do. You can just move so much freely. You can't do that in a marriage so much. You are kind of limited. I got to worry about the kids. Hey, you just can't move around the way you want. I got to go and check in. When you're single, you have the world to do whatever you want to do. And that's kind of the conversations. You are more free spirited.
I think that's the real reason why I'm not married yet. Like, I want to get married. I would prefer, honestly, to get married, let's say when I'm like maybe 60-ish, because I want to, not
Jeez.
Free spirit, and I spent so much time raising my daughter. Now I just want to get back to me. I want my time before I enter into a partnership with a man, because getting married, that's a full-time job that I just don't have the energy to do after raising my daughter. Like, I need a vacation for about 10 years.
10 years strong, straight no chase.
Straight no chase, exactly. So another thing that married couples go through, and even, people who are dating, is when someone else looks at their partner. So on the show, we saw where Kenya Moore was always commenting on your looks. You're handsome, respectfully. Shout out to your wife, Drew.
Thank you.
How do you and Drew handle when a woman looks at you and she's interested in you? How do you handle that as a married couple?
Well, I just act like it didn't ever happen. That's what I do. Just ignore. Drew, it depends on if she's in a jealous mood or not. So if Drew is in a jealous mood, so she's already said that I'm a flirt. I don't think of it as flirting. I think I'm just very charismatic. So it's a big difference. So she, Ralph, you were flirting with her. I'm like, no, she just get like, I don't see anything wrong with somebody unless you blatantly cross the line. Sometimes I may not notice something, and hey, it is what it is. As long as I don't react back, or I'm up in here taking numbers down and going out on dates and stuff like that. It's all good. It's a matter of me handling myself respectfully. And I tell Drew all the time, like, listen, you got to allow me to be able to be me. Like, I'm a grown man. I raised myself, and I feel like women become very motherly when they get married, as if you're dating a child. I'm like, I was doing my thing. I've been owned homes. I've been extremely successful all by myself before I met you, actually. So I know how to conduct myself. I don't need somebody to mother me and tell me what I should be doing or I shouldn't be doing, what's etiquette or proper. Let me do what I got to do. Now, I will say, if I make a mistake or I come off a certain type of way, you could tell me about it. I'll reflect and see if I did something wrong and grow. That may be an opportunity, because I definitely know I made some mistakes in the beginning. It happens. But allow me to be able to develop, but don't mother me. That's it. Just don't mother me.
Well, I just want to change the language a little bit, so maybe you can have a different outcome and perspective. Women, we're not trying to mother you. We're just nurturers by nature. So we are nurturing you. We are wanting the best for you. We are, loving you. So we aren't mothering you.
Sounds like a mom to me. I don't see a difference. Sounds like a mom.
So wait a minute. So did Drew really have a conversation with you? Like, wait a minute, Kenya's kind of flirting with you, and you might be flirting back. Was there a conversation off camera about what happened?
Yeah. But it was innocent to me. It was nothing to me. She made it something, and I was like, oh, okay, I probably shouldn't have told you that. But then again, if I didn't tell you and it comes out, then I'm in trouble. Lose situation. Because these are things I can care less than talking about. I don't want to talk about this. This does nothing for me. So, hey, that's the situation I was in. Hey, I'm like, I got to just take this on the chin here.
Yeah, just take it on the chin, and that's it. This is something I do with my daughter now. Like I told, she's 26, Sometimes I just smile and I just nod, like I'm not even listening. So that's a hit for you. You can keep that. I won't charge you for it.
I appreciate it until she says, "What did I just say?"
Oh yeah. That's true.
And then I'm like, "Oh, so you are not listening to me, Ralph? I've been there. I know all the tricks. I've tried them. I know it works, and I failed at a lot of them."
That's true. So, you have 3 kids, you're married. How do you keep your sex life, let's say, sexy in the bedroom with 3 kids? Like, what do you do to get your sexy time?
You got to be strategic. Get the kids to bed early. Like, literally, Anaya loves to go, she times herself perfectly. I mean, we've had those instances where the kids bust in the room and we didn't see them. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, hey, you know what? You stole my thunder, like you're not letting me live here. You're like, it's a problem. It's a problem. I don't like this. But, you got to find other hiding spots. You got to find different places around the house. And I'm fortunate, or you got a couple of little areas that we can go to, and you got to role play, and you got to do things to spice things up to make it fun and interesting, because it can become very boring and mundane. And oh my God, it's the worst.
Yes.
Men are sexual beings, and that's it. Men are sexual beings. We're sexual creatures. And we become sexually frustrated. Once we're sexually frustrated, then now all of a sudden I become somebody else, and you don't know why I'm mad. I'm like, hey, you got the power. Women have the power. Yeah, you guys got the power. Use it. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to give you a very interesting place where you two can get intimate. It's a little. I'm sharing my business, but at the beach. In the beach water, like when the waves come and people think you're jumping.
I love you for that. I definitely do.
The kids are on the shore and you two are in the beach just jumping with the waves. They don't know.
They don't know what's going on. You come out feeling lighter. You just can't get taken away by a wave. All of a sudden, you know how you get weak. You're like, oh, man. Well, now you're floating out there and everything like that. I can't swim.
I done gave you another secret, and I won't charge you for it.
I appreciate it. I'm taking it. I'm taking that one. I like that one.
Wait a minute. I'm a fan of the strip club. I'm not gonna, lie. I love to go to the strip club with my man. Do you two go to the strip club?
We do. We go every. It's been a little bit since we've been, but definitely we go to the strip club.
Wow. So another two personalities on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. You have Candid and Todd, who are very, very open about their sex life and how they sometimes invite people into the bedroom. Would you and Drew be open to inviting another person in the bedroom? I'm not offering myself, so don't think that.
Sorry, what are you trying to say here? No, I'm joking.
Would you be open to that?
Personally, probably I would. That's a Drew question. That is definitely more of a Drew question than a Ralph question. Yeah, we think about it completely different. I don't see anything wrong with people actually experimenting and having fun and doing things to spice up your relationship. But I also understand the other side of opening up Pandora's box. So it really truly is a thing where you have to have a relationship that's secure enough, know what you're doing, and then you can actually explore. But it's different strokes for different folks. Some people are with it. Some people are like, this is taboo.
I love it. I love how you answered the question with leading with, that's a question or answer that I would leave for my wife. I love that because, men are always asking women this question, but they're not, letting her lead the experience. So kudos to you.
Well,
Drew, you have it. So I also want to talk about one other personality on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Okay. The
blogs, the whole world is just talking about Porsha Williams. So using you and Drew as an example, if you and Drew, God forbid, divorced, and Drew decided to marry, let's say, one of your associates, not even a friend, but just an associate, how would you feel about that?
Well, something I don't have to worry about, but I'm telling you, like, that would be a big deal to me personally, just because it's more so, like I mentioned a second ago, it's a matter of, first and foremost, if you're my friend or my acquaintance, I know about your background. I know who you are. So I don't think I would have to deal with anything like that personally, because it'll be a big deal for them also. But if it'd be something that's interesting, because number one, I feel like if somebody were to do that, you better have a conversation with me and ask me. I feel like that's what I would probably require of my friends, or even an acquaintance for that matter. You go talk to me. You're going to have to ask me and tell me what your intentions are, not just for my wife or, if it was my ex, but more so because you're trying to be around my kids. And that's what I am more concerned about. I don't want any nonsense to be around them. I don't want them to grow up with neural associations that you created. I need to make sure and know what is around my kids at all times, and make sure it's actual, solid ground, because it's so easy. Like, how many kids grow up with traumas? We have them.
Yes.
So I don't want that kind of an issue to be something that actually lingers in with my family, or to create some negative association just based on that. But it'll be a conversation also I would have to have with my spouse also, or my ex-spouse.
Throughout this entire Porsha Williams debacle, this is the first time that I've ever heard anyone talk about the kids and the impact that it may have on the kids. And I was just like, wow, I never even thought about that. So that was an interesting point that you brought up, Ralph. People really need to be thinking about the trauma and the impact that it may have on the kids. And I think I hear your kids in the back.
Yeah, hold on one second. These kids here. Hold on, Miss Megan? I'm in an interview right now. Everybody got to be quiet. All right. So they just came from outside. And you already know they come in full of energy, ready to just go.
From one parent to the next, I understand. When my daughter was little, my friends would be cracking up because I would be on the telephone with them and just as calm. And then I'd be like, if you don't be quiet. Okay, how you doing?
Right. It's that parenting thing, you know, try to get it in order real quick. Listen, it never happened. You didn't even hear nothing.
Right. I was not bothered by it at all. I'm like, he'll be right back. You're worried about it. But, you know, I do want to close up this conversation because I want to make it full circle. So at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about the amazing work that you're doing in a field that isn't often explored by Black men or people of color. So I also know that you're involved in music based upon your music theory experience at Rutgers University. Talk about the two music programs that you have.
Yeah, so I created a sleep system called My Mind Music with Kids. And the whole entire experience was, you know, we struggle to fall asleep. And my kids, they are wired, as you just heard, right? They're always going crazy. So I needed to create an experience for them and, you know, using music. And I understood that first and foremost, you can use music to activate something in our brain. It's a chemical called dopamine. Once you can release dopamine, it's known for happiness. It'll calm you down and relax you. And so I created and curated different elements from the BPM to the various different sounds and nature that I included in there, the various different tunes and tonality. And so I was able to create this, package it up, and make the experience of sleep fun. And the kids use it all the time. Matter of fact, it works so well. It works for me also. My mind was racing. And this is another use case. If you, like, I'm that guy, my type A, my mind doesn't turn off very easy. I'm always thinking about something. How do you get your mind to turn off? And literally, next thing it's 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and you're like, I can't take melatonin or anything else. I needed to use something that actually would allow me to get to REM sleep faster and allow me to get the sleep that I need. And so my music actually is curated just for that particular purpose. And so I have Changing Seasons also, which is also geared towards adults to help you with relaxation as well. Everything is released on all platforms also. So you can just take a look, either Ralph Pittman, put in Ralph Pittman on any platform, or My Mind Music or Changing Seasons. You should be able to find it.
I love it. You know, as I was researching those two companies that you have geared towards helping children sleep, I was like, damn, this would be great for adults because my mind is always going. I'm like, damn, I got another bill to pay. You know, so you're correct with adults can use these tools as well, right?
100%. Absolutely.
And where are they available again?
On all platforms. So you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, anything that you're using, you'll be able to find it. So it's on all digital platforms. Just type in My Mind Music for Kids or Changing Seasons, or type in my name, Ralph Pittman Jr., and you'll be able to find me. Got
it. So one last question. As we approach Father's Day this weekend, what are you doing for Father's Day?
I would love to kick my feet up and relax and have everybody just wait on me, get a massage or something like that. I have no idea what's going to happen. So it's always kind of in the air. I just set the expectation that this is the day that I get to do whatever I want to do. That's it. That's all it is. So that's probably the best experience I can actually have, is just to chill and relax, just unwind a bit and just enjoy life. Smell the roses like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Well, happy Father's Day. And I'm sure that my viewers and listeners want to follow you on social media. What's your social media handle?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ralph Pittman Jr. And as well as you can always follow my website, ralphpittman.com.
Got it. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. Please tell Drew that I said hello. I think that she is absolutely amazing on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I hope to see the both of you returning for next season. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been an absolutely amazing interview also. So thank you so much for the opportunity of being here.
Okay, Ralph, you take care. Bye-bye.
You do the same. Take care.
Wasn't that a great conversation? Oh my gosh, we learned so much about Ralph Pittman Jr. So next time you see him on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, you know that he is much more than just Drew Sidora's husband. Once again, Sign You On Air for the month of June is dedicated to amazing Black men who have contributed significantly to their communities and to this amazing world of media. Now that you've watched this show, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you go across every streaming platform and search for Sonya on Air. Subscribe, leave a comment, reshare it, tell a friend to tell a friend so they can listen, so that we can all listen and we can be friends. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for carving out some time and hearing my conversation with Ralph Pittman Jr. I love you so much for tuning in and for watching Smooches Dolls.